makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay, so 2019, paper 1, question 4. Let's write down the data that we've got. Okay, so we get given the angle. Okay, so I'll just write this down. We get given the angle, which is 240. Okay, so that's going to go in. We get given the radius. Okay, remember radius is just half the diameter. And what else do we get? We get given pi, 3.14. Okay, and we're asked to calculate the major arc using this formula. Okay. Okay, so let's write that formula out. Length of arc is equal to the angle over 360 multiplied by pi multiplied by the diameter. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is work out what the diameter is. So diameter is just 30 times 2, which is 60 centimeters. Okay, so we can put that in as well. So angle 240 over 360 multiplied by 3.14, they give you what pi is, multiplied by 60. Now, looking at that straight off the bat, there's some big numbers going on. What you need to do straight away is simplify that fraction down as far as possible. Okay, so remember, this is non-calculator, you need to simplify that fraction down. Okay, the easiest thing to do straight off the bat is just divide them both by 10. Okay, you know 10 goes into them directly. So I can just say it simplifies down to 24 times over 36, and the rest is just going to stay the same. Okay, we'll keep simplifying that down. So you might straight away see that 12 goes into both of those numbers, goes into 24 twice, it goes into 36 3 times. Okay, but if you don't see that, or if you don't see it, just try and half it. Probably the easiest way. So if I half that, I'll do 12 over 18. Okay, that can still be simplified more. Okay, can still be simplified more, so keep simplify it. Now 6 goes into both of them. 6 goes into that top line twice, and it goes into that bottom line 3 times. So now we've simplified that fraction right down to something that we can't do in our heads, to something that's now a wee bit more possible. Okay, and now it becomes a case of how you order your sum. Okay, so what order you do it in. Okay, so remember, we can do this multiplication in any order we want. Okay, so I can do 60 divided by 3. Okay, so I can have 2 times 3.14 multiplied by 20. Okay, so I've done 60 divided by 3. Okay, then I can do that 20 and I can multiply it by that too. Okay, so I can do multiplication in any order I want. Okay, so that just becomes 40 multiplied by 3.14. Okay, so a couple of really quick steps. I've taken that fraction, okay, and I've just taken it alongside one of the whole numbers, and I've removed it, so I don't need to worry about multiplying out a fraction. Okay, try and make life as simple as possible for yourself. Okay, does anyone not see what I did there in regards to how I simplified that fraction and tidied it up? Okay, or doing that multiplication of 2 times 20. Okay, so now it becomes a case of I've got 40 times 3.14. Now, that's really difficult to do. I can't do that. So what I'm going to do is simplify that a wee bit. I'm going to do 4 times 10 times 3.14. Okay, and that just breaks that 40 up into another multiple. So I can do that. Okay, so it's just knowing what you can do in math for it to make sense. Okay, that makes it a wee bit easier. That means I can do 4 times 31.4. Okay, now that sum I'll take to the side and I'll do it like that. Okay, so make sure you can do multiplication, long multiplication, like this. Okay, so the decimal point stays in the same place. 4 times 4 is 16, so 6, carry the 1, 4 times 1 is 4, 5, so I'm adding on the 1, and then 4 times 3 is 12. So my final answer is 125.6. And remember the units. Okay, so quite a lot of things happening there. Okay, it's all just about dealing with how we simplify things down. Now you can do that in a different way, whatever way you order you want to do it in. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to do it in that order. That's the simplest way to do it. Does anyone not see what I did there? Okay. 2018, paper 2, question 2. Okay, that's a wee bit simpler for simple fact. We can use the calculator. Okay, so paper 2, we're using the calculator. 2018. 2018. Paper 1. Paper 2. Okay, so this question here. Okay, so again, we're using that same equation. Length equals angle over 360 times pi d. We're taking what we need out it. Okay, so the radius we see there is 7.4. So straight away I know the diameter is going to be double that, which is going to be 14.8. Okay, the angle is 320. Okay, and what they're looking for? They're looking for is to calculate the major arc. Okay, so that's, we don't need to do anything to the expression in that case. Brilliant. Okay, so length of the arc equals angle over 360 multiplied by pi multiplied by the diameter. Okay, so 320 over 360 multiplied by pi multiplied by diameter, which is 14.8. We're sticking that in our calculator. And we're getting 41.33. Okay, I'm literally doing these questions at the same time, okay, that I'm giving you them. So if you've got a different answer, tell me. I might have done it wrong while I've been doing it, so I've not actually checked the marking scheme. Okay, I'm just assuming them correct. Okay, so if you've got a different answer, tell me. It might be me that's wrong. Okay, so that makes sense. So that's just that's the one you want. All right, 3 marks. All you're doing is putting in the equation. You don't need to rearrange it. You don't need to work it out. You're just sticking that in your calculator. Okay, 2017. Paper 2 again. So again, calculator. Question 14. Wee bit more difficult this time. It's looking for the reflex angle. Okay, so we're going to have to do a wee bit of rearranging to work out what that angle is. Okay, so let's take down our data. So radius is 6.4. Means our diameter is going to be double that. It's going to be 12.8 centimeters. Okay, the length of the major arc, 31.5 centimeters. Write all this information down so it's clear in your head. Okay, take the time to do it. Those extra few seconds just clarify things. Okay, calculate the reflex angle. Let's write it out then. So length of arc equals angle, over 360 multiplied by pi multiplied by the diameter. So arc we've got is 31.5. We've not got the angle, multiplied by pi multiplied by the diameter, which is 12.8. So I need to rearrange that. Okay, so you should be able to rearrange equations now. Okay, and be aware of what you need to do. So when you're changing side, you're changing sign. So when you're moving the pi over, it's a multiple on the right hand side, so it becomes a divide. 12.8, it's a multiple, so it becomes a divide. And the 360 is a divide, so it becomes a multiple. Okay, so the angle in that case, if I bring that 360 over, pi over, and 12.8 over, becomes angle 31.5 times 360 divided by pi multiplied by 12.8. Okay, now what you've got on the right hand side, you could have kept the word angle on the right hand side, okay, what you're trying to find, and everything else on the left hand side. Did anyone else get anything different to what I've written down there when they rearranged that? You need to write that down. Okay, show your working. I cannot be more clear with that. Even in the calculator paper, show your working, you get a mark for that. Okay, show your working. Putting that in the calculator should come out at 282 degrees. Okay, I lose anyone? Okay, last one, guys. 2015, paper 2, question 10. 16. This one here. Oh, come on. Right, pendulum clock swings on the arc. Okay, so it's an arc question. Okay, you can see the sector that it's sort of pathed out. Okay, so the pendulum swings through an angle of 65 degrees, traveling A to B. So you get given what the arc is. Okay, so you get given that length A to B. Okay, you get given that angle, and you're calculating the length of the pendulum. So essentially what you need to do is work out the diameter, and then from that you need to work out what the radius. Okay, so if you imagine that pendulum went all the way around, it creates a circle. So that O to A would be the centre of that circle. So there you go. The pendulum of a clock swings along an arc of a circle. So that would complete a full circle. Okay, centre O. So O to A is the radius. You're able to find out the diameter with the information given. Okay, so writing out the equation, length of arc equals angle over over 360 multiplied by pi multiplied by d. Okay, you get given the arc length, which was 28.4. given the angle, which is 65, given, well, you know what pi is, okay, and you can find d. We want to rearrange this equation to allow us to find what d is. Okay, so we want to move pi over, that becomes a divide. Move 360 over, it becomes a multiply. And moving 65 over, it becomes a divide. Okay, so I'll keep it all on the left hand side this time. 28.4 times 360 divided by 65 times pi. Okay, so I want d on the left hand side, so that's just a seesaw. Remember that equal sign, just a seesaw. Okay, so that means the left hand side equals the right hand side, so I'll just switch them around and I'll write it like that. Okay, so those two lines are exactly the same. Okay, so just a case of putting that in your calculator. Be careful how you're putting it in. You should get a diameter of 50.07, okay, or 50.1. Okay, if you're rounding up. We're wanting the radius. Okay, the radius is the length of the pendulum. The radius is half the diameter, so it's that over 2, which will give you 25.03 centimeters. 04. Okay, so art questions, that's the extent of where they can go with them. Okay, so they can do it non-calculator, but the fraction needs to be able to be simplified down. So as long as you can simplify a fraction down, you should be okay with that. It's then just going through your multiplications, okay, and understanding what you can do and what you can break up and how to make it easier for yourself. Okay. The calculator ones is more about being able to manipulate that formula, being able to rearrange that formula to either find the angle or find the diameter. Okay, so those exact 3 questions that or 4 questions we've just done is really the only places that they can take an art question. Okay, so as long as you can manipulate that expression, as long as you can simplify things down, you should be okay. 3 marks, couple of minutes, out the door. Any questions on arcs? Any questions on those 4 examples we did? Did everyone get those answers themselves? Sweet. Okay, cool. I'll tell you that. Okay, so we're going to move on from arcs then. So that was section 10.4 and 10.6 essentially. 10.6 is just rearranging. Okay, so those 2 sections there. That's the only places they can go with those questions. Okay. The next thing I want to do tonight, okay, it's probably it's one of the hardest things to do is forming equations and then understanding what to then do with those equations. Okay, so I mean separately to what we do for simultaneous equations. Okay, so this is separate to simultaneous equations. What section is 14.7? So this type of thing, so forming equations where we're given usually a shape, okay, a shape like this, and we get asked to work out you know, what the missing letter is or something along those lines. So it's what we understand from that, okay, and how to approach that. Okay, if I get rid of that ink. Yeah, draw. Weird. Okay. So have a wee look at that question first. Oh, that's fine. And what they've done there. Okay. So what's going on here is you've got a rectangle. You've got x plus 2 is the equation of this line. 2x minus 3 is the equation of this line. It's asking you to calculate what x is if the perimeter is 40 centimetres. Okay. What you need to do is come up with an expression on the left-hand side of the equation that equals the perimeter of that rectangle. So the perimeter of that rectangle is the length of all the way around outside it. Okay, so if one vertical length is x plus 2, then you're going along horizontally 2x minus 3, and you're doing another x plus 2, and then another 2x minus 3. Okay, so you've got 2x, 2 times x plus 2, and you've got 2 times 2x minus 3 to work out the perimeter. Okay, so that's the equation that you would come up with. Does everyone see where that comes from? Does that make sense? Okay. Now, if you then break those brackets and simplify it down, you'll be able to find out what x is equal to. Okay, and that's what they're looking for you to solve. Okay, so this type of equation, this type of algebraic equation, will give you a shape or something along those lines. We want you to understand what expression would give us the perimeter in this case. Okay, so what would we have to do to get the perimeter? Okay, and then it would give you the perimeter like that. Okay, so it's that type of question. Or, so that's 14.7. So that's just linear equations. Okay, so just your sort of basic algebra. I don't understand. So just your basic algebra. Okay, or 17.9. More commonly in the exam, okay, it will give you something like this, where you're going to form a quadratic. And this is a wee bit more difficult, because to find your x value, you need to then factorise. Okay, and that's a difficult part of it. Okay, so have a wee look at that. Okay, forming quadratic equations. What I would say about this is, as I said, it's actually quite rare to come up, but it's a good one to understand. Okay, so the rectangle and the square have the same area. By forming an equation, find the dimensions of the rectangle. So you've got the area of the left-hand side. The area of a rectangle is just your length times your breadth. So it's 2x multiplied by x minus 4. That's the left-hand side. And then this square is just x times x, or x squared. Okay. Rearranging that and then factorising, you get a result. Okay, you get a length out of that. You're going to get 2 when you factorise. Okay, importantly. Get 2 answers when you factorise, which makes things quite tough. One's going to be right and one's going to be wrong. Okay, so x can't equal 0 because then you wouldn't have any area, so x must equal 8. Okay, write that down quickly. Okay, so as we were saying, what we're looking at is forming a quadratic expression to allow us to then factorize it to find a solution. Okay, the most difficult part of this is creating that expression. Okay, coming up with an expression and seeing where it takes us and goes with it. Okay, so let's have a wee look at it and break down. Okay, so question 12, find an expression for the rectangle. One side is 2x plus 1 and one side is x plus 8. We're looking for the area. Area of a rectangle is length times breadth. So it's 2x plus 1 times x plus 8. Okay. So, so expression for A, okay, fine. 2016, paper 1, question 12. Okay, expression A, 2x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 8 is equal to area. Okay, so your length times the breadth. So whatever your expression for the length is and whatever your expression for the breadth is. Okay, now you need to break those brackets later anyway, so I would just do it. Okay, so tidying that up. And that's your expression for the area. Okay, so I've just multiplied that 2x plus 1 with x plus 8, put them both in brackets, broke out those brackets to find that expression. Okay, now this is where it gets a wee bit trickier. So given that the area of the rectangle, so that expression that we've just found, okay, is equal to the area of the triangle, show that, and then it gives us a quadratic. Okay, so what it wants us to do is the area, the expression that we've just found, the area of the rectangle, we equal that to a new expression that we come up with for the area of that triangle. Now the area of that triangle is just half the base times the height. Okay, now what they've done for you there, they've actually split this into two right angle triangles of equal size. So you could just create a rectangle out of that, if that makes sense. Okay, so your expression for the area of this triangle is just going to be half length times breadth. Okay, so half of this is just x plus 5 multiplied by 3x. Okay, so this 2 disappears, and that might throw people. For the simple fact I know that, it's because I just got thrown by it there. Okay, I added that in my expression, forgot to take it away. Okay, so the expression for the area of the triangle should be 3x times x plus 5. Okay, half the base times the height. Okay, so let's do that. So what it's saying is area of rectangle is equal to area of triangle. The rectangle we've got an expression for. The area of the triangle, we said it was 3x multiplied by x plus 5. So just break that bracket on the right hand side. and then we tidy it up. Okay, so collecting the like terms, and left with x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Okay, and that is what you're trying to show. So what they're asking for you to do is show the working, every single thing you think of in that working, write down. Don't miss anything out, don't jump a step, don't think you can think of something and miss it out. Write everything down that you think of. Show the working and how you get that. Okay, every single line. Okay, so the area of the rectangle is equal to the area of the triangle. We've got an expression for the area of the rectangle. We find an expression for the area of the triangle. We equate, we collect like terms, and we try and see if we can make this. Okay. This last part is asking you to factorize that to get solutions. Okay, so to find a solution of a quadratic, we either factorize manually or we use the factorization equation that we're given in the formula sheet. Okay, the factorization formula. This one is relatively simple. It's in paper 1, so it's going to be non-calculator, so you should be able to do this without using the formula. Okay, so find algebraically the length and breadth. That's just looking for you to find the factors. Okay. So C, we're factorizing. Okay, so we're factorizing that down, so we're adding two together and multiplying to make negative 8, to make negative 2. It's a negative, so it needs to be plus or minus and plus. Okay, 1 and 8, 2 and 4, nothing else. Plus 2 minus 4. It's got to be our factors. Okay, remember when you get it to that stage, what you can do is split that up. And it gives you the two solutions to that expression. Okay. Now what happens in these questions is one of them works and the other one doesn't. Okay, so it's looking for you to determine which one of these solutions works. Okay, because only one of your x terms will work if you substitute it back in. Okay, so we look back at this equation, the length and breadth of the rectangle. So we've got the length is equal to 2x plus 1, and the breadth is equal to x plus 8. Okay, so we've got length is equal to 2x plus 1, and breadth is equal to x plus 8. So we need to substitute in these numbers into here to get a value for our length and our breadth. Okay, so straight away I can tell you that if we substitute negative 2 into here, we're not going to get a solution that makes sense. We're going to get a negative, and you can't have a negative length if you've got a shape. Okay, so that solution does not work. So it has to be x equals 4. So if we substitute in x equals 4, so everywhere there's an x, we're putting in the number 4. Okay, simple as that. Gives us a length of 9 centimetres and a breadth of 12 centimetres. Okay, now if I was to put -2 into the length, I'd have 2 times -2, which is -4, plus 1 is -3. I can't have a negative length, so that solution for this particular problem does not work. That is the solution, your only solution to this problem. Haven't lost anyone. Okay, so that's bringing a wee bit of factorisation in. Okay, so what's good about this question is even if you can't do A, even if you can't do B, you should be able to factorise the expression that they give you. So you can, even if you don't pick up the first 4 marks, you can pick up the last 3 by just factorising that down. Any questions, guys? Right, I'm getting quite a sore throat, so just need a wee five minutes, okay? Get a wee drink, and then we'll go through 2015, paper 2, question 14. Okay, so I'll come back on at 35 past. Okay, just need a wee drink. Okay, so a lot going on. Rectangular picture measuring 9 centimetres. Jesus. 9 centimetres by 13 is placed in a rectangular piece of card. The area of the card, so we're only looking at the card, is 270 square centimetres. So there is a border of X centimetres wide on all picture sides. Write down an expression for the length of card. Okay, so it's just looking for the length. It's just looking for an expression on length. It's only worth 1 mark. Okay, so it's looking for you to pull something together that shows your understanding about what this 13 is and what this X in the other side is. Okay, so A would be 13 plus 2x equals the length. Okay, or 2x plus 13. Okay, so the length is equal to 13 plus 2x. Okay, that's the 1 mark. That expression there, 13 plus 2x, is all you need there. Okay. Hence, show that 4x squared plus 44x minus 153 is equal to 0. That is just quite a big expression, okay, especially when we're starting with 13 plus 2x. Okay, what it's looking for you to show is an understanding that area is length times breadth. So you get given the area, you've got an expression for the length, and you get an expression for the breadth. Okay, you need to create. Okay, length times breadth is the area, so you equate these two expressions multiply together to that area there, and then you solve it to come up with this. Okay, so that, I said a lot of words there, so let's just write that out. Okay, so I'm going to put B. Okay, so we've got an expression for the length, so now I want an expression for the breadth. So breadth is equal to 9 plus 2x. Okay, so that's 9 plus the grey area there, plus another grey area here. So 9 plus x, so 9 plus 2x. Okay. Area of a rectangle is equal to length times breadth. Now you're given the area in the question. You know what the length is, and you know what the breadth is. So it wants you to get to this stage. Now, a lot happens before you get to this stage, and I get that. Okay, but this is where it wants you to get to, and then you multiply everything out, and then you tidy it up, and hopefully you get this expression here. Okay, so let's do that. 270 is equal. So breaking up these brackets, 13 times 9. Remember, this is a calculator paper. 117. Plus 18x plus 26x plus 4x squared. Okay, 270 is equal to 117 plus 44x plus 4x squared. Now if we look back here, we've got it all equal in 0. Okay, so we've got 4x squared on one side, on the left hand side, and everything equals to 0. Okay, so I want this to happen. Alright, so what I want is a positive 4x squared on the left hand side. I'm just going to flip this round. Okay, remember, the left hand side currently equals the right hand side, so I can just literally pick it up and turn it around so the x squared's on the other side. Okay, so I've not changed side, changed sign. I've literally spun it round. Okay, 180 degrees. Spin that round. Okay, that means the 4x squared's in the right place. And I just tidy it up until I get 0 on the right hand side. That is minus 117 minus 270 minus 153. Okay, and that's your expression. 4x squared plus 44x minus 153. Christ, that's not 2 marks. Stingy. My God. Okay, essentially you're just tidying up. You're breaking brackets and you're tidying up an algebraic expression. Okay. Part B. Okay. Calculate x, the width of the border. So we need to do factorization on this quadratic expression. Okay. And then we're going to end up with 2 answers. One's going to be correct and one's going to be wrong. Okay, so we need to identify which one's going to be wrong, the incorrect one. Okay, and then identify which one actually works. Okay, so only one answer should work in this case. Okay, so calculate x, the width of the border. Okay, now to work out the solution for this, we need to factorize it. To factorize this, you're not going to be doing it and like just writing it out manually. Okay, we use the formula. Okay. we use the formula. So what is that formula telling? Well, the roots, so the solutions for something that's in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 can be found using minus b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This is given to you in the exam. Okay, so something in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, you can find the roots using that. Okay, a, b, c. We take those figures and we put them in to that expression. Okay, minus 44. Be careful with that sign. Make sure that you're taking a negative of whatever is at that b position. Plus and minus root 44 squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 153 all over 2 times 4. Okay. Probably the easiest way to do it is solve this bit first. Okay, so just putting that in your calculator, make sure you're writing it out correctly. Okay, 44 squared minus 4 times 4 times minus 153. Give us plus or minus 66.2 all over 8. Okay, so your two solutions will be x equals minus 44 plus 66.2 over 8. And your second solution would be x equals minus 44 minus 66.2 over 8. You get two answers. Okay, now as I say, one of these is going to be wrong. So what doesn't make sense? Okay, what doesn't make sense is if x was a negative number. So if x is the width of that grey area of the border, then it can't be negative. Okay, it has to be positive. There's something there, so it has to be positive. Okay, so if we look at the two solutions, then that rules that out. X has to be 2.78. Remember the units. To 1 decimal place. Damn. 2.8 centimeters. Just be careful with things like that. 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places. Okay. If I'd left it as 2.78, I wouldn't get the last mark. Okay, so 2.8 centimeters. Okay, so those are quite hard. Coming up with your own expressions. What I would say is they've not come up in a while. The question came up in the prelim, or was given in the prelim. That doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. Anything could come up. Any questions on that, forming your own expressions? Does it make sense what I've done in regards to where I'm pulling the information from? Okay, it's usually quite a simple shape it'll give you, but it's sometimes quite complicated. So those are the three: non-calculator, calculator. Type 1 should come up. Okay. Going to stop with that. Oh, pardon me. Excuse me. And now look at simultaneous equations. Okay, so simultaneous equations similarly ask you to come up with an expression yourself, but give it more like a story. Okay, so 15, okay, section 15. Okay, section 15, simultaneous equations. Gives you either a story or it gives you two equations and asks you to work out where the coordinate is. Okay, and that will make sense when I look at the questions. Okay, so the questions that have come up recently on this that I want you to do: 2019, paper 1, question 8. 2018, paper 1, question 3. 2017, paper 1, question 13. 2016, paper 1, question 4. Okay, so these are different types of simultaneous equation questions, and you'll see you might be thrown by a couple. Alright, so let's have a wee look at 2016. 2016, paper 1. Okay, so that's 2016, paper 1, question 4. That's a wee story, put together a couple of equations. Okay, 17, paper 1, question 13. This one might throw you a wee bit. Okay, have a go at it. Okay, so simultaneous equations here. Have a go and try and find the intersection. Okay, so this can be done with simultaneous equations. 2018, question 3. Okay, that's as basic a story as it can give you, but that's simultaneous equations as well. You're solving that for x and y. Okay, dry ass question that. In 2019, question 8. Okay, so have a wee go at this, guys, and then we'll come back. Question 8 is a wee story. Okay, let's get back together at quarter. Let's get back together at 20 past. All right. Give yourself a wee 5 minutes. Get some fresh air for 5 minutes and then have a go at those 4 questions for me, please. Right, okay, so what was the first one? 2019, 2019, paper 1, question 8. Oh, right in front of me. Okay, so as with the good ones, simultaneous equations gives you a nice wee story. Okay, so 7 bags of cement, 3 bags of gravels, 215 kilograms. So write down an equation to show that information. Okay, so 2019, paper 1, question 8. Okay, so 7 bags of cement. So pick a letter. Equals 215. So 7 bags of cement. So 7C plus 3 bags of gravel, 3G. Pardon me, equals 215 kilograms. Okay, so that's your expression. That's it. Okay. B, looking down for an equation or an expression for this, 5 bags of cement plus 4 bags of gravel equals 200. That's not what I was wanting. 5 bags of cement plus 4 gravel equals 200. Okay. Question C is calculate the bag of one bag of each. Okay, so 1 bag of cement, 1 bag of gravel. That's where simultaneous equations comes in and you carry through. Okay, so remembering it's non-calculator. Okay, multiply top one by 4, multiply that one by 3. So you're trying to remove something, you're trying to eliminate something. So that top one becomes 28C plus 12G equals 860. Bottom one becomes 15C plus 12G equals 600. Okay, you're going to subtract the bottom one from the top to get 13C equals 260. Okay, so to find out what C is, you need 260 divided by 13. Now, this is non-calculator. Okay, so usually they make the equation quite simple. Okay, now that looks quite hard because it's quite a high number on top. Okay, but if you just hide that 0 for a second and think about what 26 divided by 13 would be, okay, that would just give you 2. Okay, so 260 divided by 13 would give you 20. Okay, 20 kilograms. So we take that and we substitute that back in. One of the original equations. Okay, so say equation A. We substitute that into equation A. So equation A was 7C plus 3G equals 215. When C is 20, 7 times 20 plus 3G equals 215. That's 140 plus 3G equals 215. 3G equals 215 minus 140. 3G equals, what's that, 60, 75. G is equal to 75 divided by 3. G is equal to 25. So 1 bag of cement is 20 kilograms and 1 bag of gravel is 25 kilograms. Okay. That brings you in 6 marks. That's a good question. Any questions on that, guys? Okay, so next question, 2018, paper 1, question 3. Okay, so this is a slightly different way of asking it. Essentially what they're giving you here is the two expressions which you do a simultaneous equation process on. Alright, so there's no having to come up with anything, there's no having to create anything. All it's asking you to do is find out what x is, find out what y is, using simultaneous equations. Alright, so there's no pissing about here, there's no nice wee story. So just write that out. Now, a lot of you have said, as soon as I understand what the question's asking, I can do it, or I can start it. Alright, it's understanding what the question's actually showing you. Now, the clue here is the fact that they've got one underneath the other one. Alright, so it looks like the way that you would set up a simultaneous equation. Okay, so that's your clue that you're going to use simultaneous equation. You want to try and solve for x and y. Okay, so just writing those two out. Okay, going to multiply that one by 2, going to multiply that one by 5. Okay, we're wanting to eliminate one of the letters. So that's going to give us 8x plus 10y equals -6. 30x minus 10y equals 25. Okay, we add them both together to remove the y's. 30x equals 19. Now remember, this is a non-calculator. So 19 divided by 38 is quite awkward, but if you just simplify that down, it's just 1/2. It's just a half. So you can substitute in a half into that first equation. So sub into equation 1, x equals a half. Equation 1 is just 4 times x, so 4 times a half, plus 5y is equal to -3. So 2 plus 5y equals -3. 5y equals -3 minus 2. 5y equals -5. Y is equal to -1. So that's your two answers there. So x is equal to half and y is equal to -1. Okay. So because there's not a story, because there's nothing, there's no fluff or anything around it, it's just set up like that. You've got two expressions set up one above each other, solve for x and y. Simple as that. Any questions on that one? Anyone get anything different? Okay. Paper 17. Paper 1 again, question 13. Okay, now, again, this comes back to, as soon as you understand the question, you're able to do it. However, if you look at that, it looks like quite a few things that we cover. There's triangle in there, there's a graph in there, there's straight lines in there. So try to figure out what this is actually asking is probably the most difficult part of it. Okay, so this is simultaneous equations. What it's asking you to find out is at what point on the x-axis, so at what point is x the same for both the lines, knows what point on the y-axis is it the same for both the lines. So it's looking for the coordinate of P. P means that x for this term and x for this term is the same, okay, because it exists on this graph. Okay. At that point, P, the coordinate, the x coordinate, and the y coordinate for both of these lines is the same. That's not a straight line, so we won't do that. Okay. So the graph below shows two straight lines with equations. They intersect, find algebraically, so find using simultaneous equations. Okay, so one line is 3x minus y equals 2. One line is x plus 3y equals 19. Okay, now again, they've given you a wee bit of a clue, step for a hint, by putting one above each other, one above the other. Right. So that's your two expressions. Carry out a simultaneous equation. So we want to cancel one of them out. So if we multiply that top one by 3, okay, it would give us 9x minus 3y equals 2. The bottom one we don't need to do anything to. Okay, add them both together. 3y minus 3y plus 3y is going to equal 0. What have I done here? Is that right? 21 over 10? 25, whatever. What have I done? Oh, because I've not multiplied 2. Okay, silly mistake, getting tile. Alright, so 10x equals 25. X equals 25 over 10. You can take that, if you know how to do that, to 2.5. Okay, now this is paper 1, so it's a non-calculator paper. Okay, so it will give you a simple fraction. If it gives you a fraction, 25 divided by 10, you should know that is equal to 2.5. Okay, move that decimal down 1. Okay, so we're going to sub that in one of the original equations. So sub it into the first equation. In fact, yeah, sub it into 2.5. Yeah, sub it into the first equation. Alright, so the first equation was 3x minus y equals 2. So when x is equal to 2.5 minus y equals 2, 7.5 minus y is equal to 2. So minus y is equal to 2 minus 7.5 minus y is equal to minus 5.5. So y is equal to 5.5. Okay, so the coordinate, therefore, is when x is 2.5 and y is 5.5. Now, remember to double check if that makes sense. Now there's the origin, so that's 0, 0. So you have a positive x and a positive y. So it makes sense. Alright, it's obviously not to any sort of scale, but at least both answers you've got are positive, so it makes sense. Alright, so again, that just comes down to realising that's a simultaneous equation. Any questions on that? This one. And the last one I gave you was just a wee question. Okay, and a wee story. They're all wee questions. Wee story. 2016, paper 1, question 4. Same as the first one we did. Alright, so 2 cloaks and 3 dresses equals 9.6 square metres. Write down this information. 2C plus 3D equals 9.6. Simple. 3C plus 4D equals 13.3. Those are your first 2 expressions. Alright, so 2016, paper 1, question 4. Okay, so A, 2C plus 3D equals 9.6. B was 3C plus 4D equals 13.3. Multiplying that one by 3, multiply that one by 2, give us 6C plus 9D equals, so just do it to the side, 9.6 times 3, decimal point stays in the same place, so 3 times 6 is 18, the 1 carries, so 3 times 9 is 27, plus that 1, 28.8. Remember, this is non-calculator, so you need to be able to do that. Okay, 13.3 times 2, 26.6. Alright. Taking them away from each other.
Daniel, sorry, would that not be times by 4 and one would be times by 3?
So you can either remove that letter or that letter.
Right, okay.
So because they're smaller numbers, I've removed the first ones. But yes, I think when we did it in class, we only removed that second term. So I think you're right. So I'll come back and we can do that as well. But good point. But you can remove either letter. So whatever way is simpler, okay, whatever multiplication is simpler, in this case the 3 and the 2, it means I can remove the C, eliminate the C. That makes sense. So that would leave me with D 2.2. Okay. So that's nice and easy, the fact that 9D minus 8D will leave me with 2.2. Okay, subbing that in to one of the original equations. So into equation 1, 2C plus 3 times 2.2 equals 9.6. 2C plus 6.6 equals 9.6. 2C would equal 9.6 minus 6.6. Oops. Okay, so what's it actually asking us? Calculate the amount of material each requires. Okay, so the amount of material that a dress requires is 2.2 meters squared, and a cloak requires 1.5 meters squared. Okay, let's just go back to that question then. So if I write that out again, the A and B, the original one, if anyone was still copying that, let me know. Okay, if I go back to those original expressions, 2C 3B equals 9.6, 3C plus 4D. Okay, yes, you can multiply that one by 4 and multiply that one by 3, and that would allow you to eliminate the letter D. Okay, so that would mean 8C plus 12D is equal to 9.6 times 4. Okay, decimal stays in the same place. 4 times 6 is 24, so the 2 carries. 4 times 9 is 36 plus 2, which is 38. Okay, 9C plus 12D is equal to 39.9. Okay, so we'd have to take away that. So that would give me negative C equal 1.5, negative 1.5, which means C would equal 1.5, which should be the same. Okay, and then I would sub that in, and then it would still work. Okay, so sub that into first equation, 2C plus 3D, 2C, 2 times 1.5, so that's 3 plus 3D. So it's the same. Okay, so you're absolutely right. I think when we were discussing it in class, we always removed that second term just because it was a wee bit neater. But you can remove either the first term or the second term when you multiply it out. Well picked up. Hope that makes sense. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Okay, we'll get together on Thursday in person. So I've already been given shapes and circles, so that's cool. So I can do that. So I'll go through that. If anyone needs any clarification on what we did tonight, give me a wee shout.